The recent announcement, Trump issues deadly warning as cartel crackdown moves to land, signals a major escalation in the United States' anti-narcotics strategy and raises critical questions about legality, regional stability, and long-term effectiveness. President Donald Trump declared that the U.S. will soon expand its operations against drug trafficking organizations from the sea to land, marking a shift from maritime interdiction to potential ground-based actions. This shift comes under the broader framework of Operation Southern Spear, a campaign that has already targeted vessels allegedly used by cartels and, according to Trump, disrupted up to 85% of maritime smuggling routes. The new phase focuses on what the administration calls narco-terrorist networks, some of which U.S. officials link to political or military factions in Latin American states. Trump framed the policy as a response to the continuing flow of fentanyl, cocaine, and synthetic drugs into the U.S., and as an effort to finally shut down supply chains by striking the infrastructure that supports them. However, numerous concerns emerge. First, cross-border land operations raise serious international law and sovereignty issues. Striking targets inside or near other nations, especially those that do not consider certain groups to be terrorists, could trigger diplomatic crises or escalation between states. Critics warn that such unilateral action risks destabilizing already fragile regions and could spark retaliation by armed groups aligned with cartels. Second, the definition of targets remains ambiguous. While the administration labels these networks narco-terrorists, many analysts argue that the term represents a political reclassification rather than an established legal category. This ambiguity allows the U.S. to expand military authority and avoid the constraints of normal law enforcement processes. Human rights advocates caution that military intervention in densely populated areas increases the likelihood of civilian harm, forced displacement, and accidental escalation. Third, from a strategic perspective, the land-based expansion may produce short-term disruptions but little structural change. Decades of research on narcotics markets show that supply-side crackdowns rarely eliminate trafficking. They often cause fragmentation, new routes, and more violence among competing groups. Without simultaneous reforms addressing corruption, poverty, governance failures, and the massive demand for drugs inside the U.S. cartel structures are likely to regenerate. Politically, the move serves multiple purposes. It reinforces Trump's image as a strong law and order leader, a message aimed at voters frustrated by the fentanyl crisis. It also expands executive power by merging counter-narcotics efforts with counter-terror frameworks, giving the federal government broader latitude for military engagement abroad. Geopolitically, it increases pressure on countries whose governments are suspected of tolerating or indirectly benefiting from trafficking networks. In sum, while the shift from sea to land represents a decisive escalation and may temporarily disrupt cartel activity, it introduces profound legal, humanitarian, and geopolitical risks. Whether it becomes a turning point in the drug war, or another cycle in a long-running, self-reinforcing conflict, remains an open question.